All right, thanks for staying with us. I know I don't have too much time, but let me see if I can get some more nuggets from each of my guests. Nerima, I think before the break, you had raised your concerns with the BBI process. One, you had stated, must it be a referendum? A lot of these changes could have happened without a referendum. As you can see, it was in regards to the two-thirds gender rule. You already said the meeting of Parliament yesterday showed that where there is political will, there is a way. But secondly, I think you also said you're concerned that the same political class may not be as genuine in implementing the BBI to the letter if it's been a struggle to implement the 2010 Constitution to the letter. If I've misquoted you, feel free to correct me.
Correct. Correct. That's exactly what I mean. Because even within the BBI document at the moment, they talk about the 50-50 representation, right? They talk about having one nominee to be a woman in the Council of Governors, in the Commission for Revenue Allocation. They talk about it in the governor, the deputy, one must be a woman of not the same gender, or even political parties. They talk about two-thirds. But these are things, even in our own constitution, you know, which we were trying to push for within the representation of two-thirds, that has flopped 6 times. So even if you have this in a document, you know, even when we're talking about pushing for women's representation, it will be there, but it doesn't mean that they have to follow it. So that's, for me, it's twice beaten. I'm shy. I'm shy now because I have learned. And now I'm just not going to listen because I'm not understanding how, with that particular document, you're living in an unconstitutional parliament, but then now you're saying we're going to be able to follow this to the letter because it is the BBI. That doesn't make sense to me.
Moses, what are your thoughts? You've stated what you want to hear in terms of a debate moving forward. Mm-hmm. Do you share any of the concerns or thoughts from either Lydia or Nerima?
Yeah, first, let me say BBI has always and will always be about 2022. And
some would disagree with you on that.
They are at liberty to disagree because they have their own reasons for that. But I also have my own reasons why I'm saying that. Because first of all, when you look at BBI, we are being told it's a popular initiative. Now, what is a popular initiative? When you see the state popularizing, or rather the state sending people to popularize BBI, you tend to wonder: is this a popular initiative? And again, Wahiga, I must point out some few things in the BBI which have concerned me. One is the issue about persons living with disabilities in the Senate. It has been scrapped off. So you tend to wonder, and you know, Senate oversees or oversights the counties. You tend to wonder how then will the interests of persons with disabilities be represented in the Senate, because there was a reason as to why the representation was there. The drafters of the 2010 Constitution could have as well said that we don't need any PWD in the Senate, but they saw it important for them to be there. So you get to wonder what the BBI task force was thinking of, not including PWDs in there, and it is very, 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 very shameful for people to just think that persons with disabilities in the Senate are of insignificant use, because the fact that those who have been there have not been efficient enough does not mean that all persons with disabilities are not efficient. There are people who can go there and represent persons with disabilities very well and legislate very, very well. So it is a very big concern in the PWD's community.
Lydia, again, you don't sit here representing the BBI task force, for example, but you do hear some of the concerns that both Nerima and Moses have raised. What do you see as some of the key selling points around BBI moving forward? But what do you also see as the challenges? Because every constitutional moment will have those who oppose it, from the 2010 constitution to this one as well.
And Wahiga, I would like to agree with Nerima and also challenge her. If the concern is implementation, right, of the constitutional paradigm that we will give ourselves, then we have a responsibility to change the leadership so that we get people who can be more faithful. And so this is me challenging Nerima to go and stand for something in 2022, asimame, kiti, achaguliwe, and go be faithful implementing the constitution, so that we are not always bystanding and criticizing leaders without necessarily putting ourselves out there. Let me also say that on the 2/3 gender rule, the mistake that was made in 2010 is that the principle was put in the constitution, yes, but the formula of the how. You know, so you say we are going to do 2/3 and everybody should be 2/3, but you do not demand, you do not assign a person that responsibility. So for instance, you say cabinet should be 2/3, but you do not put it in the requirements of a person to be president or in the responsibility of the president to ensure that there's 2/3 in the cabinet. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you leave it hanging. It doesn't have a formula, and it doesn't have an assigned individual person who is supposed to actually execute it. And that is what we are correcting in this BBI. For everything we are saying on gender, there's a formula, and there's a person, there is a body which is supposed to ensure that whatever we are saying is actually executed. Let me also attach on the issue of the disabilities in the Senate. Persons with disabilities, their numbers were compensated. In the National Assembly, there will be 4 nominees. There used to be 2 in the Senate and 2 in the National Assembly. Now there will be 4, so that their numbers are back to where they were in terms of nominees. Noting that the Senate, Wahiga, is the house of equality of the counties, right? It's a house of equality of the counties. So if you nominate anybody, whether it is a woman or it is who, you're going to have one person or two people coming from the same county, because you'll already have 47 counties represented by 1 man and 1 woman. And then if you nominate anybody, that person will come from a particular county, so there'll be 3. And then they will not have a voice, because in the Senate, they don't even vote on issues of, say, budgetary allocation for this or the other. They vote as county delegations. So whoever you nominate is still subsumed in into whichever county they come from. So they do not add much value. But if you go to the National Assembly, that is the house of special interest. That is where you moderate special interest. Now, special interests are PWDs, it's women, it's teachers, it's all these interest groups where you're able to bring in people as nominees, and that is where they can articulate their issues and be able to enforce, for instance, in budgeting and say we need an allocation for PWDs, for vulnerable people, we need social security and this and the other. And that was the philosophy that guided that shift, even moving the women from the 47 seats and putting them in there, because they are elected at the county level, but they have no say in terms of the counties in the National Assembly. And so that was just tidying up that particular issue of representation. Now, in terms of the selling points for BBI, I do believe that the BBI Secretariat has, well, I don't want to say they have failed, but there is something I would challenge them on. The BBI report has 3 kinds of recommendations. There is the recommendations for things that are supposed to go to the referendum. There are recommendations for laws that are supposed to be done at Parliament, which is either amending laws or just legislating new laws. And then there are those administrative things that are supposed to be done through the National Development Committee that is headed by CS Matiang'i. The other 2 items of the BBI report have been dropped completely. And while we were having this debate on the referendum, we could have made progress on the administrative things, for instance, the county ward development, innovation hubs, I think, that were promised to young people. We should have seen that coming up now in the 2021-2022 budget policy statement that Ukuri Atani is going to be reading in a few weeks' time. We should have seen that. We should have seen policy papers coming up on some of those programs that were submitted in the BBI report. We should also have seen the HELB Act amended by now. We should have seen the MSAIA Act amended by now. So I think to the extent that they have not been able to carry the legislative and the programmatic aspirations that Kenyans had alluded to, is how we have ended up now in a situation where Kenyans are feeling this BBI was only meant for the political class and the politicians. Because a lot of the things that then benefit us as Mwananchi, as young people, as women, as PWDs, are stuck in the report as legislative and programmatic recommendations. And for me, that if they can find a way to unlock those two items, then people will begin to feel, oh, actually, this is BBI is for all of us. The referendum is only for only those things that require to be voted upon.
But is time on their side is the question. And as I get final thoughts from each of my guests, I want to hear from them, because each of them represent different groups. Nerima, I know you speak on behalf of young people, you speak on behalf of women. As the campaigns begin, and I don't know to what measure, because we're still in the middle of a pandemic, and you're seeing what's happening around the world, what major question do you think young people should ask, and women should ask those who will come to campaign either for or against the bill? Briefly.
For young people, it's definitely on the economy. Unemployment is just too high, and statistics show that last year 1.7 million people lost their jobs, and that's not even counting women. And for women, of course, it has to be representation. Because of the pandemic, there have been a lot of challenges for women, from gender-based violence to even access to employment and resources and access to education. That are things that are affecting our women today. So those are the things that should be on the table, should be at the forefront when we're discussing the future of this country.
Okay, and Moses, for you, you represent you chair the Persons with Disabilities Lower Eastern Region. What major questions should those within that community ask those who come to campaign either for or against the BBI?
Yeah, before I answer that, allow me to say two things.
Briefly, please, sir.
What Lydia has alluded to. So one, we all know that bills originate either from Senate or National Assembly. So when you tell me that you're taking persons with disabilities to National Assembly and there'll be no any representation in the Senate, you're telling me any bill originating from the Senate, there will be no input from the PWDs. All said and done, it has always been this way with BBI, because I even ask myself, what difference is what is it called, biashara mashinani thing from youth fund, Uwezo fund, women fund. We are creating more funds instead of legislating to just work with what already is in existence. So in coming back to your question, what I would like to see and to hear persons with disabilities asking is the question of representation in the Senate and how their interests will be represented in the Senate. The question of representation in the executive, how PWDs will be represented in the executive. And again, the question of maybe running mates for governors and president. Mm-hmm. I felt that BBI should have looked into that and maybe given a legislation on maybe if a governor is not or a president is looking for a running mate, it should be either of the opposite gender or a PWD. So okay. Those are the questions that I would like answered. Yeah.
Lydia, you have the last word in less than a minute. I don't know which way you want to take it.
My interests are three when it comes to BBI. Of course, there's the gender question. So being able to really communicate to women that we finally have a solution to the elusive two-third gender rule, that is something that we would, I think, begin to see the BBI really front as a win for BBI. The second thing for me is young people. We have had a problem getting young people organized, getting young people to speak with one voice, getting their issues streamlined in all sectors and all ministries and parastatals. And I think the issue of the youth commission, elevating the agencies of young people into a commission will be one of those things that we'll be talking to young people about. And then, of course, for me, the third thing is the interest of Mount Kenya. one man, one vote, one man, one shilling. That is a key selling point for us who live in the region, and we will be, of course, really honing in on that in terms of being able to persuade the people to vote in favor of the referendum. Okay, and to our viewers, whatever your views are on this, remember you can weigh in by sending in your SMS via the SMS line 22422, and the hashtag is Daybreak. This is a conversation we'll continue to have online because our time is up in terms of the physical conversation here in studio and virtually as well. Thank you to each of my guests. Nerima Wako, Executive Director, Siasa Place. Here in studio, we've had Moses Kilonzo, the Chair of Persons with Disabilities, Lower Eastern, and Lydia Madhia, who is an advisor, Ministry of Public Service. Let me see if I can quickly pick one tweet or two. Let me see what, if I should have probably processed this a little bit earlier. Jenga Kongo Paul says, BBI has brought a new dawn. We had many areas in our Supreme Law that needed to be looked into. There's no area in our society that hasn't been taken care of by BBI. Representation has been the most hit badly, and it's well spelled out in the BBI. That's one person who is very optimistic. Let me see here. But Pandit Olum sees things differently. He says BBI bill in Parliament and the referendum scheme meant to regroup and oil 2022 politics to gain momentum. I am concerned about our representation, and I anticipate difficult times ahead. So a lot of convincing, for Kenyans moving forward. Should we now get to a point where it's BBI and the people? And those are some of your thoughts. Hashtag Daybreak, SMS line 22422. Let's take a break. When we come back, it should be DJ T-Boy on the ones and twos, giving you some music to set the stage for the weekend. Stay tuned for that on the other side.